You're listening to the Patient Experience Blueprint with Intibio.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to this episode of the Patient Experience Blueprint. I am Megan Clark, the Field Marketing Specialist at Intibio, and today I am joined by Melissa Barlock of Inspire Opportunities. Melissa, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, Megan. Yes. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me back. It's great to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, so Melissa is joining us once again. She was on a past episode of the podcast with a panel, so I'm happy to sit down with her and just chat one-on-one. Today, I wanted to talk about just navigating the best practices for patient acquisition. So first, we're going to cover some marketing strategies that dental practices can use and kind of how word of mouth plays into acquiring new patients. So to begin, the first question I have for you is, what role does word of mouth play in the digital age when it comes to marketing dental practices, and how can practitioners kind of leverage this effectively?
Yeah. So I think that word of mouth is paramount. I think
Mhm.
it's always been paramount, even before the digital age. I mean, it was word of mouth. But I think that sometimes people don't realize because of social media, people think that it's not as important, but I think, just as important, if not more important, because you're amplifying the numbers, right? Like if you
Mhm.
have, for example, a Google review or somebody says something negatively about you or your company online, well, you're being exposed to so many more people, dozens, hundreds, if not thousands of people, depending on your influence and where you're posting
Mhm.
as well. So I think that word of mouth is definitely paramount. And it's really important to make sure that every single interaction that you have is authentic and to your best capability possible. And that's
Yeah.
not to say that you're not going to have bad experiences or that there are going to always be unhappy people. I think that that's kind of inevitable in business. I think we've all experienced that where, somebody will interpret something differently or something happened that was out of your control. And I think that like that is totally normal. I actually did a blog about this, about what do you do with
Okay.
a bad Google review, and or if somebody speaks about you negatively, I think you directly face it. You don't avoid it.
Mhm.
uh, I in particular will call up a client who has had a negative experience, or if they've talked to one of my recruiters or somebody else and they're not feeling happy, or they've shared something, whether it be online or offline, or even if I heard it from somebody else, I'll give them a call and I'll just have a conversation. And 9.9 times out of 10, after the conversation, they feel better, because really people just want to be heard and they want to feel
Yeah.
validated. So I think that that's really, really important to deal with it head on.
Okay. Yeah, you can't bury your head in the sand when it comes to negatives. One thing I wanted to kind of touch on in one of your first points was I sat down with Josh DeVries, our CEO and co-founder, and we also chatted a bit about the subject. And he had said, before the digital age, word of mouth, it was one to one, and now it's one to many. It's one
Yeah,
to hundreds,
perfectly
if
said.
not thousands. Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
So my next question is, how can understanding your current patient base help shape your dental practice's marketing strategy? And do you have any key insights that can be analyzed, or sorry, that can be gained from analyzing patient data?
Yeah. So I think this applies to really everything in life, patient
Hmm.
data, the people that you work with, because really, my company, we focus on staffing and growing your team culture. And
Hmm.
ultimately that affects your patient acquisition as well as patient retention. So to me, that goes hand in hand. I think that your marketing strategy, online, offline, especially digital, it's going to be important both for your team and for your patients, and they go hand
Hmm.
in hand. So absolutely knowing what your your demographic is, and your socio demographic or socioeconomics with around your dental practice is huge. And actually, when we're recruiting for our clients for for team members and for staff for them, we want to know, where the office is and what are the socioeconomics, what are the demographics, the age demographics, cultural, everything, so that we can add to their team and make sure that it's a good match, right? So, for example, if you have somebody, if you're in an area that is predominantly French speaking, it would be really, really important to have somebody who's bilingual, right?
Yeah.
Look at so knowing that is really important. So you wouldn't go and hire somebody, a reception who doesn't speak French. And so it's really important to understand that and this is even good for dental dentists who are looking to purchase a practice or to build a new practice, is to figure out the people in your neighborhood. What are the things that they like? What are the things, are they working? Is it a double income family? There are some cities where there are a lot of, one person may be working and then the other person is staying at home with the kids, or maybe a large family base. And so it's really important to have, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, not so much evenings and weekends, because you have that demographic. Whereas another area that may not work, and you may not have a patient or as heavy of a patient flow during the week, but in the evenings, because people are working during the day and they've got help in the evenings, or they're able to bring their kids, or they're able to come in the evenings after work. So knowing your patient demographic and your staff demographic is really, really key to maximize your profits within your dental office. It can be good, but if you want to be great, you want to understand your patients and understand your team as well. And that goes hand in hand.
And cater to both of them.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And one thing I would love to chat about is so if you could kind of briefly describe, I know brief is hard, you do so much, but briefly describe kind of what you do on a day-to-day and how that helps practices acquire patients.
So what do I do? So oh gosh, what do I do on a daily basis? So
I know. I don't like when people ask me that question either.
I know, like, what do you do when you're out at an event?
So
what do you do?
I know you're primarily kind of internal and working between practice owners and their staff, but how does that bleed into the patients and acquiring new patients?
Yeah. So I work, yes, like you said, with dentists. My clients are all dentists, and typically they're coming to us for staff. They're looking for associate dentists, they're looking for hygienists, treatment coordinators. And so we really focus on finding the right fit for our clients, for the dentist, and finding the right fit makes, in doing so, it's really important to understand the company culture, the dental office culture. And if they don't have every office, every company has a culture, but if there's a culture that's toxic, for example, or, they're having really high turnover, for example, or, usually if there's really high turnover, there's something going on. There's something going on with leadership. There's something going on with the dental practice. And that's where we focus on helping to train the office to have a better workplace culture. Because in doing that and having a great atmosphere in office that patients come to, they want to come back. They feel good about it. Like, I think we might have talked about this before, where I remember growing up and I loved my dental office. I loved my dentist, but I especially loved the reception, the hygienist, and the dental assistant. And every time we came in, there's 5 kids in my family. So my mom would bring all of us there, and, the reception knew that we were.
It's a big day.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be like a whole day thing. And we'd go in and we looked forward to it. Like, all of us had such a wonderful dental experience. And I wonder if that was kind of the beginning of planting the seed for being in dentistry. But anyway, and she would have like fresh cookies for us. And I'm not saying that you need to bake cookies, but it's that's the difference that makes the difference, is having that friendly atmosphere when you walk in. And if you have a toxic workplace, well, the patient's not going to want to come back. or they're going to be
Yeah.
disgruntled, right? Or that's
Yeah.
where you get the bad reviews of, oh my gosh, I walked in the dental office and the reception was, didn't pay
Miserable.
attention to me. She was miserable. And those things make a huge difference.
Absolutely.
You go get a coffee and you have somebody who's rude to you, as opposed to somebody like, hey, they know your name, they pay attention to you. If they've
Mhm.
seen you before, people love to hear their name. People love to feel valued. People love to be heard. So if you have an office culture where that's not happening, you're
Yeah.
not maximizing the patient experience. So we focus on that with our, when consulting, when our dental offices look for help, with helping with increasing the patient experience. Our expertise really is with helping them build that team culture, and understanding the dynamics within the dental space.
Mhm.
And that also translates into online, like showcasing all the things that you're doing online as well. That trickles into online and digital marketing. If you do it right, like if you take
Yeah.
things and the experiences that you're doing and showcase those online, it shows people, it can show many more people what a wonderful place you have, not only to work at, but also to go and have your dental treatments at as well.
It kind of just goes to show how powerful word of mouth is, because you've just told me how fun your dentist office was. And I was just like, okay, well, who is this? I want to
I
go.
know.
I
Yeah.
live 5 provinces away, but
I know, when you have that experience, like,
yeah,
oh my gosh, really? That's so
yeah,
cool. These
yeah.
little kind of things, and that exactly is word of
Mhm.
mouth. And I've got some clients who, they do little things. Like one of them was experimenting with, oh gosh, having like an animal daycare, because they recognized that a lot of their patient base, they have
Mhm.
animals. Like they always come in and talk about their animals. And one of the reasons why, if they can't make an appointment is because they're pet and they want somebody to watch them. So they have a space that you can actually bring your animals. So what an incredible way to, create a space for your patients that they feel valued and heard. Now, I'm not
Mhm.
recommend that for every dental office, and it may not be something that's plausible, but if you really have that kind of culture, or that demographic around you, that everybody's got pets and that's kind of how it is, that might be a
Yeah.
really cool thing to do. And that's where it creates word of mouth as well.
Yeah. And kind of, I think something to add on to there too is, in terms of acquiring new patients, dental offices are going to have to adapt to kind of new normals, which is everyone has a pet, or most people have a pet and not children. And it's that they don't need to change their hours around school days. It's, yeah, adding pet sitters. But
Yeah.
that is fun. I don't see my dental office doing that anytime soon, but I will definitely recommend it to my dentist. So moving on, but kind of staying on word of mouth, I just wanted to see what your opinion was on how dental practices can effectively leverage online reviews, um, particularly Google reviews, to enhance their online presence and then again attract new patients.
Yeah. So Google reviews are huge.
They're everything.
If you can get a couple, even just so consistency is key.
Hmm.
Having consistent Google reviews, so not just focusing on it one week and saying, okay, let's get as many Google reviews as possible. That's
Hmm.
fantastic to have to build something up if you don't have any, like going back to all of your past patients and asking them for reviews, but having that consistency, even if it's a couple a week,
Hmm.
focus on that. Because once Google starts seeing that you're getting the reviews, then, we hear about the algorithms, but it's
Yeah,
true. They start
it is
recognizing and putting your dental office higher.
up top.
And, I've even noticed for myself that the more Google reviews that I get, and the more that I'm uh, um, having that consistently, the more
Hmm.
that I get recognized, or my website or my company. Because even when I get calls in from clients, I always ask, like, how did you hear about us? They're like, oh, I was Googling and your website came up first. And I thought, oh, that's fantastic. Because I don't really spend a lot of money on ads. Like I
Yeah.
because I'm getting the consistent reviews. I'm doing the online, marketing in terms of blogs, things
Hmm.
like this, and continually promoting that. So And the way to leverage that is, well, number one, you want to be asking. Don't be afraid to ask. You know, people are so afraid to ask for the review, but it's such a simple thing to do that after a patient has come in, maybe, you know, put your reception or somebody in charge of that, or have some sort of automation that after they've come in, you send either a text or an email saying, thanks so much for coming in. You know, we appreciate your business and it's always lovely to see you, or whatever that looks like. And by the way, we'd love to have a Google review. And some people will add on like, hey, you know, if you do a Google review, you have a chance to win a prize at something. Maybe if you want to give an incentive. But most times people are really open and willing to give a review if they've had a great experience. And on the flip side, if they've had a not so great experience, they're probably more motivated to do it. So make sure that you are asking for the Google reviews, because the odd negative one, if you've got a bunch of positive, it will completely offset it and it's totally fine. If you get a negative review, I wouldn't take it down. I'd actually respond to it. I'd respond to it in a professional way online to show that you are responsive, and taking full responsibility of that and taking care of your patient. And a lot of times that goes even farther than a positive one, because it shows your business and your professional acumen.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was about to ask you, was kind of what is your take on negative reviews? And I think like just in my personal life, whether it's a dental office, a doctor's office, or a restaurant down the street, if I'm reading the bad reviews, it always kind of shines a light on the provider when they do take accountability for kind of their mistake, or something happened, or why there was a really long wait, or why their appointment was canceled. So I definitely think that that goes a lot farther than just deleting the review.
Oh, 100%. And even I think most people realize that there are negative people out there that are just going to post negative things. Like there's a lot of trolls out there. So I think most people, they know that. So I think that by responding, it's just even way more of a benefit to do so. So I think that's fantastic. Yeah.
And taking accountability is always the right thing to do and the respectable thing to do. But getting off of line, I know I've talked a lot about how important digital marketing is, but why is it crucial, would you say, for dental practices to maintain face-to-face interactions, engagement with the community, and like what kind of strategies would you say they could employ to maintain those face-to-face interactions?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, I think that the online is important, but the offline is just as important. And that's because going to your dentist is a personal experience. It's like finance, right? It's not like one of those things that people just kind of jump on and say, yeah, sure, I'm going to partner with this person, because it's personal. Just like finance, your teeth are personal. It's invasive. And a lot of people already are apprehensive because, you know, a lot of people have had maybe negative experiences or a negative perception. So building that know, like, and trustability is really important. And that comes from all angles. They say that it takes about 5 to 12, if not more, touches for somebody to buy into something, you know, for marketing. And it just keeps increasing. And the touch point could be, you know, they see something online, or they see a Google review, or, you know, your website came up, or they've seen an ad somewhere. So it's kind of those like quick touch points. And so the way to really, you want to create like a robust kind of holistic approach to that, in that you're hitting all angles, that you have, you know, your team culture is speaking, you know, your team's speaking positively about the dental office. You've got your online presence, you've got your website, you've got consistent postings online, you've got reviews. That's great. That's one part. But the other piece is the face-to-face piece, where you want to be out in the community. And that could be hosting, you know, client or patient appreciation nights or days or lunches. You could host something, you know, in the summertime, you could have like a little tent outside, you've got face painting, and you've got some pizza, and, you know, just like customer appreciation things, like a bowling night. You could have like, come on in and visit our new dentist. Like a lot of times our clients in rural areas especially do this, where they'll have a new associate dentist coming in, you know, come in and meet the new dentist. And
Mhm.
especially in the rural areas, they love that because it's a little bit different than it is in the city.
Yeah.
They really revere like the dentist and the doctor, and it's a huge deal. Not to say that it isn't in the cityscapes, but it seems to be so much more. So why not bring that back and say, hey, come on in,
Yeah.
dentist, have some, some beverages or hot chocolate or things like that. You could do skate
Something.
days, something like that, right? Customer appreciation days. We appreciate you. Or you could even do, when the patient comes in, making a point for, even if it's not a visit with the dentist actually coming out and coming and saying, hey, Mrs. Smith, like, we really appreciate you. Thanks for coming.
Mhm.
How was your experience? Like these little things like this, and that's even with your staff, just saying, hey, Megan, you did a great job today.
Yeah.
People want to hear those things. You could do like raffles, you could do, even volunteering. There's a lot of offices that will have volunteer days where they do free healthcare or free dental care for the
Mhm.
day or half a day. You could do that once every quarter, once a month, whatever your office allows you to do.
Yeah.
That's something that is really a team building experience, but also lending it yourself to the community to say, hey, we actually care and we're giving back. So
Yeah.
that's such a great way to give back to the community and really have that face-to-face interaction with people. And gosh, that creates amazing word of mouth as well.
Yeah, I guess this wouldn't be face to face, but I'm just thinking what always gets me back going to the dentist is getting that postcard in the mail, and face to paper is that reminder, and it being on my fridge until I eventually book an appointment again. But going back to what you were saying about kind of rural communities, before Melissa and I started the podcast, we were just chatting about some travel, and I was in a small little surf town a few weeks ago, and it has a really small population. And I had walked past a dental office, and I thought that must be such an integral part of the community because, as far as I know, there was only one. And imagine everyone in your town goes to the same dentist. Yeah, that face to face interaction and the community engagement had to be so integral there.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah,
think about it this way, like you have the opportunity to be that hub of social community interaction. Like if you
yeah,
were to reframe and say, you know what, I want this place to be, somewhere where people feel safe, and secure, and like it's a social kind of fun place to be in, as opposed to like, oh, I gotta go to the dentist, right?
mhm,
And that could be as simple as having the ambiance when you come in, having music, or some games or something fun in the front lobby, or just things that really kind of make people feel comfortable
yeah,
and encourage them to talk. You could even
yeah,
have like a community board. Why not have a community board in there so that, you have the local realtor or the
yeah,
local financial advisor or other local businesses, the pizza shop, and
yeah.
they want to come in there and they, have them post up their business card, and they're going to want to refer people over to your
Exactly. I was
office.
gonna
It's
say
that cross promotion there, right?
there is. I was gonna say, like, who's to say that that local pizza shop isn't also going to have a community board with your dental office's
Yeah.
brochure? Yeah.
Yeah. Or even talking about you, right?
Yeah,
Like, why
exactly.
not even extend it? Like, I used to be in sales and marketing. This was,
Mhm.
gosh, for a stainless steel company. This was 20 years ago. And, stainless steel seems pretty boring, but
Mhm.
I killed it in sales. Like, I ended up increasing my sales over 300% in one fiscal year.
Wow.
And so I looked like a rock star, especially to the guy that was before me. And honestly, you know what I did that was different? Um, I sent cards. So we talked about
Mhm.
that. I sent
Yeah.
handwritten cards to say thank you for your business. Or every time I met somebody, I would write a card and say, hey, it was great to meet you. Let me know if there's anything I can do. And it wasn't salesy. I focused on
Yeah.
the relationship, not on the
Personal.
business. Like focus on the relationship,
Yeah.
and business will come always. If you
Yeah.
put the relationship first, people will want to
Come
either
back.
come to you or refer you at some point. So
Yeah.
focus on that. But also, I would bring in like donuts or a
Mhm.
coffee or something so simple, pastries to, to people that that I was constantly going in and visiting. And why not do that? Like, why not be the dental office that if you're in a unit, you know,
Mhm.
go to your local, you've got a strip mall, build relationships with those people. So they're
Yeah.
constantly funneling like with other businesses who have a large client or patient base as well. Building
Mhm.
up strategic alliances and partners are huge, like really, really huge. And that's how you build community.
That's also, I think, something to touch on too is strip malls, or yeah, if your practice is somewhere where there are a ton of kind of smaller businesses around too, that word of mouth is going to travel around that mall quickly. And especially say it's a business park, is near the dental office. People are just going to zip out on their lunch break and uh, go to their dental appointment. And if there's 300 people in one office and you have one or two giving these glowing reviews and recommendations, there's 298 new patients.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, even sorry, just to go further on this, I
Mhm.
used to do a lot of, and I still do a lot of networking, but go to, you've got your local chamber of commerce, you've got your BNI, Business Network
Mhm.
International, you've got Rotary clubs, you've got other volunteer things. So when I used to be a part of a lot of these groups, there would always be a dentist in the group, right?
Yeah.
And I know it's a lot of time, like away from chairside, you're not making money.
Yeah.
But once you start connecting with other people in the community and other businesses in the community, they're going to want to refer you. So taking
Absolutely.
one day out of the week or a half a day out of the week, and really giving back either at your Rotary or going to a networking group and networking with other people and building those business relationships are important as well, because again, their reach is so much more, and that face to face is huge. And then you
Mhm.
can take those images, like I do this all the time, where I'll go to an event and I'll take pictures being out and I'll post them. And the
Yeah.
reason I do that is because, and then I'll tag other businesses and, appreciate other people. That which you appreciate appreciates, right? Anything that you're
Yeah.
appreciating is going to appreciate you back. So they're going to want to, retag you and post you. And that's the whole domino effect of chain of reaction. And so once you're out there, and people like to be around people who are high energy and busy and things going on, and people naturally gravitate towards that. You can see that at a
Yeah.
fair, you can see that at a lineup, you can see that at, a Starbucks or like a lineup. You'll have three, tellers or three people there taking orders, and people always gravitate to the one that has like the most amount of people, right?
Yeah.
People
Absolutely.
naturally are gravitated towards that. So if you start creating this kind of energy and atmosphere and idea of social interaction, more people are
Will
curious and they want to
come
be a
to
part
you. Yeah.
of that.
Oh, I
Yeah.
think a great example of that is even how we met, because I met Monica Watson at we had an interview event, and then I sat down with her, and then she gave you a glowing recommendation, and then we had both of you on the podcast together.
She's
So
lovely.
yeah,
Yeah.
she is
She's
lovely.
lovely. Yeah.
We love Monica over here. But one thing I learned when I started working in the dental industry as well, that I don't know if it was a shock to me, but it was more so just kind of interesting, was that dentists aren't trained in business; they're trained in dentistry. So, do you have any or know of any common challenges that dental practices might see when they're trying to develop or implement any marketing strategies? And how can we avoid those?
Yeah, of course. I
Mm.
mean, they're just like me. I don't know about dentistry because I never trained in it. I can't
Exactly.
teach any type of technical dental skills at all because I wasn't trained. And so naturally, here you have a dentist who's got a new practice and they're all excited. And it's like, oh, okay, well, it's not just dentistry. I've got this whole business to run. Now what do I do?
Yeah.
So you can imagine it's like, they learned very little, maybe one course, a small section of business, and they're starting to teach more at the schools with this, but still it certainly isn't enough to teach how to run a business. And even when you are taught that, it's still difficult. So I think that there's a number of things. I think number one is knowing, okay, I don't need to do it all.
Hmm.
Shouldn't do it all, because focus on the things that you're good at, right? Let the
Yeah.
other people who are good at what they're doing focus on what they're doing. And this is again where word of mouth and referrals come in handy, and the networking piece, because once you start networking and building relationships, having those conversations with other people to see, okay, well, who do you use and what's been your experience? And so you can use word of mouth to your advantage as well. So number one, there's always going to be help out there. You just have to ask for it and make yourself available and ask. Yeah. So number two is really just having somebody who likes to do that stuff in your office do it. Knowing that you don't need to do it. Having somebody in your office, because there's always going to be somebody who has different expertise and skills. And that's why it's really good to get to know your team on a personal level and doing those outside of office team get-togethers, because that's where you get to see what their likes are, what their dislikes are, where are they comfortable, where are their growth opportunities, so that you can kind of put those in places to do that. Obviously, going online and research is another way to do that. Yeah, I'm not sure if I answered the question there. Was that what was?
No. You definitely did. I just wanted to kind of chat through, how can we avoid those challenges? But no, you answered the question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I asking people, there's always going to be help out there, and there's tools. Leverage the tools that are out there. I think a lot of times, not just dentists, but business owners in particular, you're skeptical. You're skeptical with something new. Number one, because it costs money. Number two, because it takes time out of your day. Number three, because now you got to train the team on how to do these things. But I think that focusing on the end goal and what you're looking for, as opposed to the problem right in front of you, is really important. Because once you implement something like a system, whether it be, maybe you're onboarding a marketing team or some sort of system, right? Like something like what you guys do. It's once you get the training, it's all like easy going from there.
Full speed ahead. It's just kind of a slow rolling start. And then once it's implemented,
biting the bullet. This is another important thing too, that a lot of dentists and any business owner, any industry, the challenges that they face. I'll use my chiropractor as an example. Okay, so went to see this chiropractor. Don't go anymore. I mean, I may go back if my lower back starts flaring up again, but I was out for a walk with my dog. Her leash came around my feet and she ran full speed ahead, and she's a Doberman, like 75 pounds of muscle. And like my feet just flipped out under me and I fell on my back. I've never had back issues, but after that, I was like, oh my God, had to do something. So went and see this chiropractor, and I was so impressed by their processes. Okay. So from the first moment that you walk in the door, they have like an iPad. First of all, you walk in the door, reception, or administration, whoever at the front, hey, how are you? Just, check in over here. And they have this iPad. You check in, and then immediately they, sit you down, and then you go over. And then they've got this great follow-up system afterwards. So you get a message immediately after your meeting, and you can put, or your appointment, and you can give a review immediately after that if you like. They make everything so seamless. Anyway, because I had gone in there for several months just to kind of fix my back, and thank goodness it's fixed now. It feels a lot better. I remember saying this to one of the ladies. I don't know what her exact, she helped with, the scans and things like that. And I said to her, I'm so impressed with your office. I'm so impressed how lovely everybody is, and how you have everything automated, right? And everybody seems to be on board. And she said, yeah, it's interesting because I used to work here before with the old chiropractor. This new one came in. He's a younger guy, came in and took over. And everybody was really apprehensive because he wanted to change things, and he wanted to automate things, and he wanted to implement these systems that everybody and all the young people were resistant to. And this lady was older. And I said, so how did he get you on board? She said, well, you know what he did? He actually pulled me aside, knowing that she's been there the longest. And even though she was the oldest, and you would think that, oh, she'd be the most resistant to change, because he pulled her aside and said, listen, your input is really valuable to me. I know, you've been here the longest,
Mhm.
and it's really important that I have you on board. Like, what do you think about this? And what is your feedback and what's your input? And she was on board immediately, even though she would have been apprehensive and completely resistant if he
It
just
was
went
just
ahead.
thrown at her.
Right. He actually had a conversation with her and knew that she probably had a lot of influence, with everybody else on the team, and also gave her the respect, the fact that she's been there the longest, and had that conversation. And so she was on board, and she was able to help get everybody else on board and speak positively about the change that was about to happen. I highly encourage that dentists do the same thing as well, that when you're going to be
Mm.
onboarding a new system or process that ultimately is going to help you. Nobody likes
Yeah.
change. Very few people, like
Scary.
90% of the population. It's very scary. It's putting people in a very vulnerable situation. So you want to ease them through it and let them know that it's going to be okay. And everybody feels the same way. So I thought that was a little story that's really, really practical for people to do when they're implementing new strategies.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. That is good to know. I'd say I was chatting again with Josh, our CEO, and we were talking about how nurturing that patient relationship is so important, but also nurturing that staff, because the relationship with your staff, because that's just an immediate reflection of you onto your patients. And
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. And her
happy
having that
environment.
conversation with me
Yeah.
as a patient,
Yeah.
and I'm sharing it with you now,
And
right?
you're impressed. Exactly. You're
Here's word
impressed.
of
It's
mouth.
someone you want to keep going back to. Exactly. It's word of mouth. And then I know this, you kind of just answered my next question a little bit, but I just wanted to see if you had any kind of success stories from past clients that effectively implemented traditional word of mouth referrals, or any digital marketing strategies.
I've got a client
Mhm.
that reached out to me. This is more recent. That's why I'm thinking about it, because there's so many of them. But he reached out to me and he was asking me about actually Google reviews and online presence. And I shared with him, my strategy similar to what we talked about, focusing on the team, taking pictures and video and taking those and posting them online, as long as everybody's on board with that. And
Mhm.
creating, the optics, which is also, as long as it's true, but and you're creating that optic and that brand of a positive culture. So you're doing things within the office, you're posting them online. Cause he's like, what do I post? How do I, what do I do? And I said, well, get somebody within the office who wants to do it. Again, he was not a big, online social media. He totally didn't understand it, but knew that it was important. So that's why he reached out to me. And I said, here are some of the things you want to do. Is there somebody in your office who's interested in this stuff? Yes, I've got this, wonderful reception. She loves social media. Great. Give her, half an hour a day or whatever, where she does that. And so that was kind of her rule. Anytime you do a team get together, or even something's going on in your office, have a little video clip or a picture, post every day consistently. Okay.
Mhm.
Have her do that every day. So that part of her daily method of operation was social media. Like, that was worked into her role. She was paid for that. So posting every day, things that you're doing within the office, and then asking for the reviews, because they weren't asking for Google reviews. It was kind of just sporadic. So they ended up implementing the same thing, just getting like a Google Pad and having it in the office, because he said, we've got an older patient base. They don't know how to do this stuff. And I said, okay,
Yeah.
we'll have it in the office, so that as soon as they're finished
Walk
and
them
they've had
through
a good
it.
experience, walk them through it. So take an extra couple
Interesting.
minutes, walk them through it. So have it right then and there. So it's done before they even leave. Great. Did that, check that off. And so, we had a conversation a couple weeks, maybe a month later. And he was just happy that he started getting the
Yeah.
Google reviews. It was working. The lady that was working on the social media, she felt appreciated because he was appreciating it. And it was now a part of her job. It was in her job
Yeah.
description. So it was an expectation now, as opposed to just oh, by the way, if you have time. No, it shouldn't be if you
It's a
have
role.
time. You need to make the time, because
Yeah.
it is that important to do it, and make sure that you're doing it on all the different platforms as well.
That's an interesting tactic too, having it in the office, because one, I know that I'm way more inclined to write a Google review sitting in my car as I've just left, like immediately after. And also, when someone asks me in person and I'm looking at them, I'm not gonna say no. I can't. That's just who I am. And yeah, I think that is a great idea.
Yeah. Or,
Yeah.
and I would also, and I said this as well for the other, maybe more technically savvy people, have
Mhm.
just a QR code beside it so they can do
Yeah.
it themselves and go in the car and do it on their own.
And
Right.
those are so easy.
Yeah.
And I
QR
think
code, snap.
most people know how to use a QR code these days. That is, yeah, great. Put it on their receipt or put it on by the front door as you're walking out. But I think that is probably one of the best strategies I've heard for Google reviews, is having it right at the front. But that is all my questions for today. Did you have anything else to add for me?
Gosh, well, I always love chatting with you. I feel like we could
I love
chat
chatting
forever
with you
about
too.
anything. Like even
Me
before this,
too.
we had a whole nother chat about travel and culture and learning about other culture and being open. I
Yeah.
think, I think that's why we get along so well is number one, we took time to have a conversation and get to know
Mhm.
each other a little bit, which is nice. And, being open to other people's perspectives, being open to learning there's always an opportunity to learn from somebody else. And I love that.
Yeah.
It's always such a pleasure to do these things because you never know what you're going to discuss or
Yeah.
learn about or, um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you have definitely taught me so much, even from our just first initial get to know each other phone call. But again, so Melissa is from Inspire Dental Opportunities. I will definitely pop all of her information down in the episode description. But did you want to add anything else on where people can find you?
Well, I'm online at Melissa Barlock and
Mhm.
YouTube. I'm really trying to get YouTube up because I'm doing a lot of videos and stuff. So that's at Melissa Barlock. You can find me on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook as well. And they're also at Inspire Opportunities. And of course, my website, inspireopportunities.com. And you can find everything there. So yeah, I'd love to hear from you and I'd love to connect. And if there's any questions that any of you have out there on anything, recruitment, team culture, recent book that I've co-written. We've got a few exciting things coming up. I'd love to hear from you and wishing everybody all the best.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Melissa. I will talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening, everyone. Bye bye.